fun Counter-Strike to watch these past 2 days.
Yeah, it has been. We're recording just as the Blastfall final finished. G2 taking down NaVi 3-1, finally breaking the curse. Although I think it was overblown, the streak. For me, saying it's like 9-0. Okay, yes, NaVi beat G2 9-0, but it was like a different game, first of all. When the streak started, it was still CSGO. Then it was different rosters. I don't think...
Sure.
For me, it's more like NaVi beat this G2 3 times already, right? Like, that's more important than necessarily them getting beat like all these times before as well, because you bring in a new in-game leader, one more player, a third player has to change roles. It's like a different lineup at that point in time. I understand like some of the psychological influence on guys like Nico and Hunter and Monesi, but I think it's like just there's a huge difference once you change so many players.
Yeah, but for a broadcast purpose, the 9-0 sounds a lot cooler. It sounds a lot better than the 3-0.
Yeah, I know. But it was hilarious when Hunter, just like, as they're talking to them after lifting the trophy, he goes and he's like, I just want to say one thing. No one beat G2 10 times in a row.
that is pretty fucking next level. Good
that
for
had
Hunter.
Me rolling.
Yeah. What a good series, though. I mean, a good 3-1. I think a 5th map would have been really cool. But I think for me watching it, it was like right out of the gate. It felt like this was going to be like a different G2. I don't know. Nico, this whole event has just been like crazy. Even in maps where like he's not top fragging, like his impacted rounds is just nuts.
Yeah, it has been, absolutely. I have to say, starting from the veto, I was pleased that they didn't ban Mirage, because, it's an easy thing to do. NaVi, only time they lost it was to Vitality in that crazy quadruple overtime game in the Cologne final, right? They could have easily won that one as well. And if you look at their Mirage, actually, and their results, it's like a lot of those wins are like 13-4, 13-5, 13-6. They're just blowing people out of the server, really. So, but if you're G2, like, NaVi is the better team on every map. Like, on all these 5 maps, NaVi is the better team. It's just for G2, you want to go somewhere where your individuals have a chance to, like, make plays and make a difference and do something. And I think that's even still on Mirage, it's better for them than on Anubis, right? Because the way they need to play to beat, like, a team like NaVi on Anubis, like, how polished they need to be, they just aren't that. At this moment, this lineup, it's sloppy. It's not going to be great. There's going to be plenty of opportunities that are going to be missed, but you're hoping still that you'll be able to power through with some, like you said, whether it's Nico with high impact kills just throughout the round, whether it's Monesi with some nice clutches, or Hunter or Snacks in that department, or Malbs just also openings and fragging output, right? Like, that's what you're really banking on. And what I liked about Ancient, Ancient was almost the blueprint on how to do it. Win both pistols. They even won the first gun round in both of those, right? And then, as you see in the second half, I think the score was 10-9 actually for G2, right? It was 10-6. Then NaVi wins like 3 rounds in a row and some gun rounds, and it's pretty clean. And you're like, uh-oh.
Yeah.
And then what they do is basically like just simplify it a bit. They just go for B contact into, like, I think it was a sort of a delayed B exec the round after, and they win both of those rounds. And then the last one is against a weak buy, and they close it out, because I think you saw that on Mirage, where, despite the big lead, like, their T side was just
Yeah, it's the T side at times is always going to be not super pretty. I've just come to, like, I've resigned myself to the fact that, like you said, like, G2 once in a while is going to look sloppy and, like, disconnected. I feel like that's just going to be the way this team is. I think.
Go ahead. Sorry.
No, I just don't think they're going to have, like, the well-polished, like, movements that, like, a NaVi will have. I don't think they're going to always look like they have that, like, super cohesive teamwork, like, phase.
Yeah, I think for me, I think you saw it as well on Dust 2. But I was going to say, like, some shit that G2 does or happens to them or whatever, it's just almost, I don't know, it's voodoo stuff at this point. like, okay, you have the snacks on Dust 2 just trying to, with no smoke, cross from sight into the corner.
All right.
You're back.
Yeah, somewhat of a technical issue, so there's probably a little overlap. I'm not going to say who it was, but one of our Audacities froze and crashed, so then we had to start things over. And here we are.
Yeah, so the snacks round on Dust 2 on CT side, and you're like, why do people like just make these plays? Like, just chill.
It does seem to be just a brain fart. Like that play from Snacks was like crazy to watch happen.
Yeah, and sometimes it's pretty good though, and sometimes you saw that from NaVi, like the second round, the force by the G2 wins, with NaVi taking long and then wanting to fall back, but Hunter just shoulder peeking for info with the smoke out, and then blocks them with 30 seconds left, and then they just decide to like run back to the other side of the map and get caught in the rotation. That was what kick-started sort of the good CT side for G2.
Yeah, but you know what frustrates me? There's two things I noticed for like watching these last like 2 days of G2 and the semifinals and then here. One, I get super nervous. I left the games today, and I know it's going to be map dependent, but I left the games today being like, I never feel comfortable when I'm watching Snacks and Hunter in like a 2v2, 2vx like retake scenario. And I feel like there's a ton of maps, and maybe my brain is just highlighting these because it makes me feel so uncomfortable. But I felt like there are so many rounds where I watch with Hunter and Snacks playing the same bomb site or defending the same bomb site, and I just felt like that was repeating itself over and over again, coming into a post plant and like a retake or a bomb plant, and I'm just like, I have no confidence that these guys are going to win it, and I don't know why I feel like that happens so frequently. But then the other one is kind of to your point, some of the like voodoo shit that G2 has happened to them is like Mirage up 9-1. Wonderful gets that crazy ass 1v2 that like just a magic bullet. Like I was convinced that Wonderful killed Kennedy after I saw that. Like he just curves a bullet, like a random recoil bullet for no reason. But from there they go on to lose the last 2 rounds of the half. It's 3-9, and then the pistol round is like Hunter not realizing he had the bomb, pathing incorrectly, and that's where I'm like, I feel like G2 should have more experience to not make those kinds of mistakes, because when G2 makes a mistake, it just seems like they like lose a little bit of focus, make another one, and then you just get the compounding effect of it unraveling entirely.
Yeah, that's that stuff is just crazy. It's like, why does it, it's 5v4, second pistol, just had a 9-3 CT side. Just plant the bomb, right? And they're going to go for the retake, but you're in a much better spot. Instead, Hunter goes to do, I don't know what. Then he realizes, or someone's telling him, yo, you have the bomb, plant the bomb. So he starts running back, but they catch him. And then they see they caught the bomb. So NaVi is just capitalizing on that with keep to being aggressive, right? And it was a great play from them. But it's like, why? You just got the clean kill, just plan it. And enjoy.
Yeah, and just reap the fruit, reap the whatever I'm trying to say.
Yeah, and the Wonderful round was dirty, but it shouldn't matter all that much. With that strong of a CT side, you still need to close it out in the second half. And yeah, Hunter fucked that one up. But even if you look at some of the gun rounds, it's like, okay, their default gets broken up. They win the first round. They win is a half by sort of where Hunter clutched the 1v1 with the Tech 9, and then off the back of that, they go for sort of a B execute to try to punish Alexi. It doesn't work out at all. They get completely shut down. And then after that happens, they go right back into like a standard default. Like that's too easy for NaVi to make that read. Like after they stop you on B, they're going to play heavy mid, because they're like, okay, after you get stopped trying to do that execute, you're going to go back to trying to play a little bit more default, try to be, a little bit more safe, give your players some space. You need to, you can play default. You don't need to go into another execute straight away, but you can, do a delayed default, like do something, throw some nades on A, then start going out mid, right? Try to throw some misdirection their way. So that's like something that you see, and you're kind of like, they're now making it like kind of easy for NaVi to come back into this one.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. And I mean, fair play, NaVi did on Mirage, but I mean, outside of that, I thought G2 looked pretty damn sharp, even despite some of those shortcomings today. m0NESY was on one. Malbs was on one today. 77 kills on m0NESY, 67 on Malbs. Nico's 58 kills. Like, man, you had everyone you needed step up. Even Hunter, with some of that criticism, we should say, had a good series, 59 and 60, but did a good job in his roles outside of those mistakes that are going to happen from time to time.
Yeah, he definitely had his moments, and you need to, right? Like, you're not going to be beating a team like NaVi with one guy disappearing, Snacks as well at times, doing something at the very least. Like, it doesn't have to be too much, right? But you can't be a liability. It can't become this thing where, you have to sort of over rotate and help, and like it's impacting the way you play, right? You're like, oh, I don't really want to go B, but Snacks is on B, so I don't really trust them to do something useful in this, whatever, 4v4, right? If they go to his side or something like that. And that's not the way to play.
No, but I think that's what's kind of scary, though, because when you're watching NaVi G2 on Dust 2, like, I'm actually kind of surprised that G2 won that, because that B bomb site, I mean, frankly, was a liability with Hunter and Snacks there. Obviously, as we said, Hunter had a decent game, but attacking into that B bomb site was like, again, you mentioned that Snacks move, but I think there were like 3 B hits in a row from NaVi where Snacks and Hunter didn't really mount resistance of any significant kind. And that's going to be something that teams notice and just lean on down the stretch in the future.
Well, there was that round with Snacks. There was one where Hunter messed up even more. Like that, where I think G2 was in a 5v4 and they blocked NaVi. They blocked tunnels late. Hunter did, even like with 30 seconds left or less. Nico was mid and NaVi was grouping up to go B, and he like moved to the middle of the platform to spam the smoke. I think a little bit delayed because he realized, oh, with this time they might be behind the smoke, so he didn't go for the spam instantly. But after a couple of seconds, and in those couple of seconds, the call from NaVi was just break the smoke and go. So once he started spamming, after like 3 bullets, the smoke broke, and Wonderful just killed him. And then Snacks was isolated. NaVi did a great job of like how they took the side, how they peaked, like so that he couldn't even get 1 kill, and he was really mad after that, Hunter, because he knew he fucked up, right? But it's like some of those rounds, they still managed to recover, and I think the reason for it is like you have that Monacy round with the op as they're from long as they're coming into the bomb site, right? Like that's when you need your dudes to step up like that. So I think NaVi also G2 played better than they did against Vitality yesterday because, man, I mean, first of all, that Nico round where he smashes the
Oh,
best,
yeah, dude,
man.
that was wild. That was crazy.
I don't know, like, I saw that live, I was watching that game, and then I even rewatched it. I'm like, it's just crazy. I think it's just like, the overwhelming feeling of you know what you did, and like you're about to finish incredible. It off, right? Yeah. You did everything right, and all of a sudden, like, this guy's moving to tap the bomb. Apex just wanted to tap. I mean, Nico hadn't that to rights. He just needed to put it on his head, and that's it, right? But again, of course, I got 100 tweets immediately about, oh, you're not calling your boy out now. Oh, when Halzerg does it, it's bad. When Nico does it, I guess this is fine. He literally broke the desk. Whereas, like, I don't know how many times I said this already. I'll say it one last time on this podcast. It's like all table smashing is bad, because even Nico said in the interview, like, he was shaking for 2 rounds after that. He knows he shouldn't have done it, but it still impacted him in a way. For a couple of rounds, he was like shaking, which is obviously horrible. After that, he managed to reset with some breathing exercises, which is the great part about it. But on the desk smashing, the reason why I called out Halzerg was because he was doing it at, like, the score is 3-3 in a group stage game, and they're on a half buy, and he has a scout on Dust 2, and he peeks double doors, and the other guy kills him with the op, and he smashes the desk. Like, while all of his teammates are alive, the round is going on. It's like, it's not even like a round you're expected to win. Like, there's not that much on the line for you to be doing that. And you shouldn't be getting that frustrated over it that you need to smash the desk.
Also,
right?
Lesson learned, if you are going to get that frustrated and you're going to smash the desk, fucking break it. And then we all think it's amazing. Like, as long as that ends with a hole in the desk, everyone's going to be happy. Everyone wins in that scenario.
And, you see a lot of players do it when they lose a clutch in an important round, where it's like their last round, they get frustrated. They do it, some fewer than others, some with more intensity than others, whatever. I don't really care about that. I think all of that is bad, because as a player, that means it's affecting you, and nothing, you shouldn't really let it affect you that much that it comes to that. Like, obviously, yes, you're invested into the game, but you should be able to just, ideally, you would be able to reset every round, right?
Yeah.
And you're like, yeah, fuck it, it happened. But if we win this next one, there's still fucked. I need to like be focused for that. Now, I understand that's also wishful thinking, and people aren't robots, and I like passion as much as anyone else, right? That's why I don't think it's a massive deal when people do it under those circumstances. But if you're just doing it constantly, you're just being a dick, right? Like, what's the point of that? Like, you're just being annoying. Like, that's just annoying, right?
Yeah.
So that's the reason why, for me, there's a difference between when do you do it and how.
I thought the funny thing that was coming out of that was like I was like watching all the like the tweets and like the had like Reddit threads and Reddit comments, and it was like, oh my god, he's literally bleeding, like, and I'm just like, but it's just like his pinky. It's not even really gushing blood. It's just kind of there.
Yeah,
it's just kind of. Let's not act like it's some insanely intense like injury. That I would say. And the one thing I will say is that's actually his death slam. I mean, I loved it, but on another level, it is extremely silly, especially as crazy, like using your mouse hand to do it. Like, what if he'd broken his pinky? Like in that moment.
Yeah, he was lucky. He was lucky that he hit the middle of the desk where you don't have the supporting, legs or however you call it, because that's where the table is at its weakest. That's why he broke it. If he hit it on the stronger side, he might have broken his pinky or something. Then what are we talking about? The dude's literally like hurt his plate, his mouse hand.
He can't actually hold the mouse anymore, which would be such an insane turn of events.
And I even asked him last time, I'm like, is your hand okay? Actually, he's like, yeah, it's fine. I don't, there's no pain or anything like that. Just the scratch, right? I'm like, fucking hell. If you lost that game, I think you might have cut it off.
Yeah, I know.
Like, I might have, but just to end on that game and like this whole thing, later he had the 1v3.
Yes.
In overtime. Yeah. But here's the thing, like that's another like G2 fucking thing. In that game, a couple of things happened. They lost the force by...
This is against Vitality, you're talking in the sense?
Yeah, on Mirage. Yeah, they had 3 guys on B in regulation. m0NESY window with the M4, like kitchen window with the M4, and Hunter and Snacks on site when ZywOo aced with the Deagle. And like, they didn't get a single kill there. And then in overtime, Nico and Miles pushed ramp like mid-round because they lost mid-control. They don't see anyone. They again have 3 players. I think even m0NESY kills the first guy with the op through the window, and Snacks, maybe it was a double op, and Snacks killed one guy as well, or Snacks killed one more. And then from a 5v3 there, it becomes a 3v1 for Vitality.
Yeah.
And luckily, Nico, because of the push, he had the great timing all the time, but they had the info. Like, it should have never have come to him having to be in that 1v3 situation, and luckily, because of the timing, he got 2 kills for free. And then the 1v1, he was also, in kind of a good position because of the time and everything. But that's like G2 for you. It's like Nico needs to win a 1v3 from a round. They should have never come to that. Like that's the problem with them. Like when you look at how they play, it's like that shit happens way too often when you look at the macro and everything like that they have in terms of information or utility or whatever, the round is like right there, and then they find a way to sort of fuck it up.
Yeah, because especially when he's on that flank, like you can actually get those first 2 kills and just go like ultra passive. Like m0NESY doesn't have to make a move out of market door. He doesn't have to make a move into the bomb site. You can just let Hunter play boosted and see if he can get you one. Just hold for the cross and let that flank come to fruition, and then you have the round in the bag. But yeah, that's G2. But that's also why I guess the next question that I would wonder, because we always kind of mention this when a team wins, and I mean this year we've kind of shown that it's so hard for teams to consistently win, and there's enough teams that are good enough to always cause problems. Is like this win from G2 is awesome, but just by nature of their win conditions and the way they like to play, G2 never strikes me as a team that I'm going to count on to win like back-to-back events or make it to the next final or replicate that kind of a victory.
I mean, here's the weird thing, because for G2 it just depends how you look at it, right? If you care more about the eye test, then yeah, there's all these things we've been talking about. But if you look at their results, lost in the final at EWC to NaVi, lost in the quarterfinal of Cologne to Mouse, lost in the semi-final of Pro League to NaVi, and now won the tournament by beating like NaVi, Vitality, and FaZe, right?
Yeah.
Let me check. Yeah, FaZe lost to NaVi, Vitality, Spirit, FaZe, and then NaVi in the grand final, right? So like they lost to NaVi 2 times to get knocked out and 1 time to Mouse, which are
Two of the
two
best teams
really
ever.
good teams together for a very long time, like much better teams. And then I would tell you, yes, but in those games that they've lost, they looked really bad. They won some of the games, you know, the teams that they play against weren't that great. And a lot of times they were bailed out by individuals. But, you know, that's kind of how a team built like G2 has to win. And you should never expect, and they shouldn't go for sort of the style that NaVi has or that type of play.
Yep.
They need to keep it a little bit more simple and just give space to their players to make plays and sort of just have to play with confidence. No matter the score, you have to keep that identity and just go for it and just trust the players. Eventually, they will click. You know, eventually you'll get the entry from Malbs or Nico. Eventually, m0NESY will like win you a 1v2 if you can put him in that position.
Dude, he had so many disgusting rounds today on Mirage, especially. Like he was such a monster in late round situations. I don't know, like I guess almost like, because I've been on like the m0NESY train of like I think m0NESY is the best player in the world. Like I think he's number one in my mind in that like whole like number one player race of ZywOo, Donk, and m0NESY. Like I have m0NESY at the top, and obviously such a good final from him is gonna just like kind of cement that in my mind. But where do you stand? Like for me, when I watch m0NESY, I'm like, in terms of like the diversity of plays that he can make, his decision making, his impact in rounds, like I don't see another player that matches him, you know?
Yeah, I think it's really tough. Like it depends on a lot of like angles the way you look at. Like even for this tournament, right? The highest rated player is ZywOo, 143 rating, then Flamesy 135, and then m0NESY with 133. But m0NESY has played double the maps that ZywOo or Flamesy have played. Like and it becomes like a little bit similar, even if you look at
this was a point you brought up about m0NESY over Donk like a month ago, I remember, like before Pro League.
Yeah, this whole thing, like Donk has played less maps than either of them because they've skipped some
events. Some events they've bombed out of a little bit early.
Yeah, and it also depends on like which filters do you use, right? Like if you use, for example, the top 5 teams, like meaning when 2 teams from the top 5 play each other, the stats look for 2024 ZywOo 126, m0NESY 126, Donk 122, right? Where ZywOo has 36 maps of those and m0NESY has 61 maps. So not double, but like, you know, a good percentage more, and they have the same rating. Thinking over a larger sample size, that rating, it's harder to keep up a higher rating, right?
Yeah.
So I guess a lot of it depends on how you would evaluate it. For me, I can't really give it. I would, for me, it's between m0NESY or Donk, because for ZywOo, he has the consistency and like the high level, but he hasn't had as many like takeover games or tournaments, or, you know, like it's been maybe a map here and there. He's also had games where he goes missing. Same for m0NESY and Donk, but, you know, I think mostly because of like their ability to just straight up win a game and how frequent they're able to do it. m0NESY and Donk are 1 and 2, and then, you know, if you want to have the conversation, it's harder to do it on the rifle, so you're going to edge it towards Donk. But, you know, Spirit has been sucking for a couple of tournaments now, man. Like they haven't been close to beating some of these good teams. If they don't step up as a team and make some deep runs, I mean, Donk will have to be out of the race in a way, because if you are not doing it on the biggest of stages and you can't get there, I mean, that's hurt Nico plenty of times in the past in those sort of conversations. So, yeah, I think as of right now, probably with this win, it's like m0NESY by a hair. But, you know, the major, I think, is probably going to determine a lot of it.
Yeah, I think
maybe
that's the important point too down the stretch of the season is can Spirit find a way to bounce back so you're making those deeper runs? Because I think really what's still kind of edging Donk at the top in most people's minds is the incredible Katowice run. You know, just in terms
and
of
just how dominant he can be, like he just owning people, you know, swinging, being aggressive, which is, you know, something that we're not used to seeing lately in Counter-Strike, right? It's just been oppers for the most part.
Yeah,
but yeah,
I think too, like, I mean, you pointed it out as well, like Spirit getting destroyed in the quarters, destroyed. There were close games against G2, but I feel like over the last few events, I think we've, looking at Spirit, a lot of that strength that we saw in them early in the year of like, look, like Chopper is calling really well. Shiro is one of the best oppers in the world. Magix and Zontix are really strong in their positions. Some of that has faded away. And I think now, like, we see Spirit of like, man, a lot of those positives that we talked about them in the first half of the season are gone right now. And it really feels like they're getting exposed to being too reliant on Donk in his openings.
Yeah, I think what we hear from a lot of other players on other teams is that they haven't really changed their play style or adapted much from those early runs, and people have sort of figured out how to play against them, and they didn't really do much to change anything of that. And then when you have that feeling as well in game, if you're a player, like, that hurts your confidence. And then we hear that as the second thing from people, is like they don't have the same confidence. You can tell sometimes they're not playing,
seizing the moments in front of them.
Yeah, exactly. And obviously that's, you know, crucial if you're going to be lifting trophies. Like, you always have to make these calculated risks and trust your instinct, and it's all about timing. Like, you have to go for it immediately. If you hesitate, like, that's it, it's over. So we'll see if they're able to figure something out. They're skipping Rio, right? Yeah. So now they'll have a month up until right there at World Finals, I presume.
Yeah. And I mean, I think that's kind of a cool conversation about Spirit, because I pumped this a lot during.
Yeah, I just checked.
I pumped this a lot during Pro League. That was the exact conversation that Eternal Fire had coming into the Bet Boom Dasha event. Woxic in his interview saying, like, teams have figured us out. We feel it inside the server. We feel like they're a step ahead, like they know what we're doing next. And they had to, you know, go back and reinvent a bunch of their reactions and a bunch of their protocols and a bunch of the plays they like to make. And then you see that kind of come to fruition with their run to the finals and a very close finals at Pro League. So yeah, Spirit better fucking figure that out, because without some deeper runs, without maybe another trophy down the stretch, like what G2 has Dallas now, has Blastfall Finals. Spirit have what? They have Katowice. They won a Bet Boom event earlier in the year.
Spring Finals.
Yep. But I mean, you start, if G2 like wins another event and Spirit like keeps having these early exits, like that's probably a takeover for Monacy at the end of the day, and in the stats department if they can edge that out. So,
and also, I mean, yeah, sorry, go ahead.
No, that was it. I was just gonna say it's a fun. I think for the first time in a long time, since maybe, I mean, the Simples I Woo, like, back and forth between number 1 and number 2 was kind of fun. But outside of that, like, this is probably the most fun in terms of a race for the best player of the year award that we've had. I think it's even more fun with having a third player in the mix.
Yeah, and also just to talk about NaVi a little bit and that stuff, I think if they continue in this sort of form, and let's say they maybe win the second major, who knows, like, I think he doesn't have the stats for it, but someone like JL has had incredible impact for them. Like, if you look at their runs in these tournaments and trophy wins, and whether it's like a key game in the semifinal or the grand final, you know, he'll always have at least a map where he is the reason why they were able to win. You know, he was the difference between winning and losing.
I've actually, go on.
No, I was just going to say, like, it's hard to put him like in the number 1 conversation, but if they end up being good, you know, in the top 5 potentially, but the stats will not back it up. Yeah. But that's like the feeling you get from watching the game.
Oh no, dude, I have the same exact thing. I've thought about that same exact concept, because I'm like, you know, he's never going to be able to match up statistically, like, head to head when you look at the numbers. But if you were to go back and like start putting eye tests, and in terms of impact in the big games, like JL. Like, the major win was all JL, Every time they needed a round, he won. He clutched something. He did an amazing sequence. And if you use that as a barometer and add that into the way you think about who's the best player in the world, I think you could probably make a pretty strong argument that he should be in that conversation. Just if you were to look at the big wins that Navi's had and JL's impact and performance in some of those big trophy moments, like guys absolutely wild. But obviously the stats aren't there to match up with the Zywoo, Monasi, or Donk. But even that being said, didn't he match Donk's like rating at Pro League, where Donk was having an incredible tournament too? Like I think JL actually edged him out at the end of the day. Yeah, just I mean he's a freak, this JL guy, and how he's been able to just pop up, and like from Paris on, it's been like JL's playground.
Yeah, it's been pretty, and I remember even the start of CS2, he was talking about, you can build your own legacy, you can decide, like nothing's stopping you and all of this stuff. So he's sort of proving it. He's putting, his money where his mouth is. And I think for Navi, obviously it's going to be disappointing that the streak, it had to end sometime, but for it to end in the grand final, out of all things, right, it's always going to suck. But I think there's definitely a little bit of burnout for them, not necessarily in a sense of they will feel super tired or anything like that, like not in a physical sense, just in a playbook sense, right? Like just refreshing some of the stuff for them, adding some different things, because Pro League has been a long tournament. They went all the way to the final in Cologne. There was only a couple of weeks between Cologne and Pro League. There was no time off between EWC's fall groups and Cologne. And they're a team that really benefits from having time to just prepare, change some things, add some new things, and so on. So I think I think that played a big factor in why they, in the end, fell to G2 here. Still a close game, right? Easily could have gone to a fifth, or some of the early maps could have gone a different way. But I think they'll still be a contender, come Rio, and definitely so come the major time.
Does this change your estimation of Navi at all? Like, I still would probably consider them the best team in the world at the moment, or the team that I feel like going into events has the highest chance of winning.
Yes, for me, they're the best team in the world still. And I think the conversation between them and Vitality is like, I think Vitality's just style is a little bit more gambly and a little bit less consistent. And, outside of Zywoo, and even that, like to some extent, like I just trust Navi's players more as well, to be consistent and to execute on a high level consistently. So for me, it's still Navi number one. And then after that, you're sort of looking at Vitality and G2 as the two next teams. And after that, it's probably a little bit like we didn't see Mouse, right? Like that was a little bit surprising. Their run at Pro League, not making the playoffs, losing to Complexity twice. So they've had a lot of time. I mean, it will be almost a month that they've had off until Rio. So you really expect a lot from them in that regard. So we'll see that. We'll see Eternal Fire. Can they replicate what we saw at Pro League? What about your Liquid boys?
Yeah, they got fucking trounced, didn't they, by FaZe? Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it shouldn't be super surprising, just due to the fact that it's still a new lineup, and I think obviously it's easy to get super excited with how well they've been performing in that. But I feel like, I've said a couple of times, I'm really cautious before hopping on this bandwagon, because I want to see how they respond to a bump like this, right? First big stage game for the lineup, even though all the players are 4 of the 5 players are very experienced. Ultimate had a really rough series. I mean, yeah, I don't know. I think also you ran into that kind of FaZe monster that we all knew has still been lurking in the shadows, just don't see much of it these days, of, wow, this is actually a whole new team on the stage. Rops, bodied them. But yeah, I think the nice thing about this, as someone who likes Liquid, is we get a chance to see how they respond. We get a chance to see how, a really tough, pretty embarrassing stage loss, how they're going to look moving forward into that. I don't think it's like any kind of like red flags or anything like that. I didn't see anything that was just like, oh shit, this team like just doesn't have it. I think they just got destroyed, and then let's see what they come back with, because they're in Rio as well. So it's like it's right around the corner, and that can be a pretty quick bounce back if they use this time wisely.
Yeah, I managed to catch a good amount of games, but unfortunately the Liquid ones weren't one of them. So I'll have to.
Yeah, I wasn't able to.
On the way to Rio.
Yeah, I wasn't able to watch those ones live
Find time
either.
to watch it.
Yeah,
because usually they looked super solid and well structured and all of that, and didn't make too many mistakes, and the individuals were solid ultimates as well, right? All of that stuff. But still early days for the lineup, right? They've just been losing to some of the best teams really in the world, gaining experience. So yeah, you just are expecting them to improve and get better. And FaZe on the other side of things, right? They were actually kind of close to taking
NaVi
down NaVi, yeah, but man, just that ancient, like you're 10-4 up really on T side and not being able to close out, that's definitely going to sting, especially, someone like Carrigan who takes a lot of pride obviously in his leading, but rough that wonderful clutch in the end.
Oh, dude, that was filthy. That was so nasty. I kind of felt bad watching that, to be honest with you. When he hit,
and one of the
oh no, when he hit the second shot on the player in Donut, I was like, that's what a hard shot to hit, and like probably I feel like 19 out of 20 times that's just a one round for FaZe. Even if you give him the no scope in Temple, it's like that is still such a strong position in Donut for the post plant.
I mean, that's still also Carrigan. Carrigan was the guy, and he was the last guy, and he just also whiffed on him, kinda. So yeah, that's unfortunate. But also, one of the reasons why NaVi is the best team in the world is their mental fortitude.
Yep.
Right, like we saw it plenty of times this season. Semifinal at TWC, lose first map, 13-1. To Maus, come back, win the next two maps. In the final against G2, lose first map in overtime, come back, win next two maps, win the game. In some of the other tournaments as well, like they've shown it time and time again. I think Pro League 2 not playing their best, but still being able to grind out like Eternal Fire. And FaZe just on that third map, they collapsed. Yep. Absolutely. After not being able to close out on Ancient, it was just nowhere to be seen. And, in some way it's a little bit understandable, but you really don't want to be seeing that. Like, it doesn't give you too much hope that FaZe is kind of back and then that they will be in contention in Rio, let's say.
Also, I think Anubis for NaVi is a strong map for them. I actually, just in terms of like which players they have playing where, it feels like the roles are like just tailor-made and perfect for a team like NaVi on Anubis.
And Alexi finds a lot of impact on the east side in mid.
Yeah, he does. He like really stresses the lurks, doesn't he? He really pushes forward into him. Yeah. So, I mean, it was nice to see that flash from FaZe. I wish they could have continued it to actually overcome NaVi. I think that would have banger, but not to be. I'm with you. I think the mental game of NaVi is really strong. And I think a lot of it comes down to, it's clear that all of them have such faith in Blade's game plans and the kind of system that they've been working on and practicing and building up, that I don't see them like going away from those set protocols and those set, the kind of set things they want to do ahead of time. Even if they miss some kills, that it still has like confidence in the ideas and the game plans they have when they come into maps. I think it's really, really cool.
What did you think about the new Astralis team? Let's get into that, shall
we? The new Astralis team.
Well, first the whole conundrum.
Yeah. Well, no, let's start with the team and then we can get into the conundrum. I think it's
not much to talk about.
Yeah, I guess there really isn't. I don't know. I don't know what I think about it yet. I think I'm happy for cadian because I didn't know where the hell he was going to go. I'm happy for Liquid that they were able to get that contract off their books. I struggle in my brain with the knowledge of how cadian how it's all come out about how cadian led Heroic and the way he wanted to call and play the game, and then seeing that style clash and really struggle to do it, to get it going in Team Liquid. I'm wondering if that's even going to work with someone like Device, who wants to play, more on the textbook side of things, more on the smart, wait for your moment side of things, probably doesn't want to be micromanaged. And then you also remember cadian as an AWPer was able to kind of position himself in the perfect position to call around how he wants to play with the AWP. So he's going to have to figure out how to do that now with another AWPer. So I'm not super excited about it from like a Counter-Strike point of view.
Yeah, I don't really have a lot of faith in the lineup for a plethora of reasons. You mentioned some of them. Also, I mean, cadian has to play anchor city side now. I think that's what we saw in some of the games as well, which is like people are going to try and bully that at the beginning. Like first of all, he's one of those guys. You know how we say, I don't know who we talked who was the guest on the podcast, maybe Twists. I think it was Twists now in Malta, and it's like it doesn't matter like roles whether you're, it's more like what sort of a personality player are you, right? Like, are you a guy who can stay still, or are you a guy who has to do stuff all the time? If you're a guy who has to do stuff all the time, then you can't be the anchor. Like, you have to be put into rotator positions, right?
Yeah.
Because for anchors, you have to be patient. You have to be able to stand still, hold angles, get one kill, fall back, play it safe. And cadian for me definitely falls into the group of guys who has to be moving. Even if you look at Heroic and some of the big games they played on stage, like he was the guy sometimes having like a lot of impact with Yop and just playing aggressive and all of this stuff, which was one of the reasons why they weren't able to lift any big trophies. The fact that he had to do that as well. But, I don't think it just suits him as a player to have to play the anchor. And, sure, maybe they will just play a lot more of that dynamic, aggressive, constantly making plays, gambling sides, re-pushing in the mid-round and all of that stuff. But that becomes then a little bit predictable, right? And a team like NaVi, for example, their whole T side will be around punishing moves like that. Exactly, right? And it will work. So, I mean, that's one of the issues. As you said, calling from a rifling position compared to being an op, and also just having to rifle full time on T side and be a part of the pack. I mean, you have to get some of those, you can't just be like, oh yeah, I'll just go in first and you guys trade me every time. Like, sometimes you need to get that first kill. Like, you need to be productive in that position as well. We'll see if he'll be able to do that over the course of, a longer period of time. But man, just the whole Stone and Yabi situation.
I know, it feels so weird.
Like, it just feels like this thing where, you're broken up with your ex, like, you had a fun time, you enjoyed, like, traveling and having nice vacations or partying together, going to fancy restaurants, right? But then you realize, like, the deeper connection just isn't there. Like, you don't see growing old with this person, right? Maybe you want kids, they don't want kids, right? You just disagree on, like, the important issues, right? And you break up, right? It's fine. You want to find someone that matches your, the important things that you look for in life. And then, time passes on and things aren't really working out, and then you see them, like, out in the city and whatever, like, and you're like, hey, man, we used to have some good times, let's run it back.
Yeah.
Right. But the core issues still haven't changed.
Yeah.
Right. Like,
you're like, I wasn't the happiest in that relationship, but it was pretty good. It was okay. We can find that back again. We can get into a happy place together. I feel like all your metaphors have to do with exes and breaking up in relationships. I want one episode, we need to go down a list of your ex-girlfriends and just have a chit chat about all of them.
No, I think it's just like, that's the easiest for my brain, like, from Serbian to English and kind of to explain it. It feels like,
very natural.
All the other analogies would sound weird from me trying to do them in English.
I mean, for real talk though, like, this feels panicked to me. Like, this move to bring cadian in as the IGL feels very forced and feels like it's done from a perspective of desperation and concern rather than feeling it's the right. Like, I feel like I'm saying this with no insider information. I could be completely wrong, but I feel like Device might have put them in a hard spot here, taking on the in-game leader mantle and then deciding, a few months later, it's not for me. or how long has it been? Like 5 months or something now. And just like, I don't want to do this anymore. And then if you're Astralis, you've put together this massive, highly talented lineup of Danish players and all the interesting prospects. And you don't really have a good place to go to like replace one. And now you've also, got to find an in-game leader that all these guys with experience are going to respect. And those just don't exist. Like there's not a lot of them out there just sitting on a bench. And I feel like cadian was, I think it's very reactionary and very panicked to just kind of pull the trigger on this. And I think long-term, I don't think it's going to give them the results they want.
Yeah, I think also, the obvious one is why not just get Hooksy?
Yeah, that
he's sitting on the bench in G2. He makes sense role-wise, right? In the Danish team, he played with Yabi on Flames before, right? There's familiarity there. I think he would definitely do better on a Danish team than on an international team, just culturally wise, and the language.
That makes it even worse.
All of that stuff, and he fits right in. So it's like you're going out of your way to get cadian and go make all these concessions, right? To put him on the team is like, why are you doing it that way, in a sense, right? And that you can't help but think, okay, so last summer, first thing Astralis did, they brought Heroic's director of performance, right? And then a couple of months later, here comes Ton and Yabi, right? And now this guy is, it's like, do these people like actually do any work, or do they just put together like the same teams that they had in the past?
Yeah.
Like first you build that last team where there's a clear role clash. You couldn't get a coach for your team for the RMRs, so you failed to make the major, right?
Yep.
And now you had the same thing. Over then you had NaVi stepping into the in-game leader role. We saw how that went, and now you had this whole fucking conundrum with the emergency substitute and all of this bullshit for this tournament. It's like, come on, man. I'll get into it.
I don't mind getting into it either. It pissed me off a lot when it first happened, just from the Astralis perspective of like throwing Bro under the bus by like saying that he has like a medical emergency when you just put him on the bench. And it's like a statement like that can be pretty damaging to what happens next in that guy's career. Like imagine being, a GM and considering Bro, thinking about making a replacement, and then you see this news that he's got this unknown medical emergency that all of a sudden he just can't play in an event. You second guess and think twice about that. And I don't think it'll have an impact here, because obviously the ensuing details that came out made this entire thing so ludicrous that it was quite obvious that he didn't have any kind of a medical emergency. So like in this situation, it doesn't have that impact. But I think it felt to me that's such a violation from Astralis of like the kind of relationship you're supposed to have with the players that you take into the org. They are dedicating their time and energy and their whatever X amount of years that their contract is to playing for you and trying to improve, your organization's standings within the Counter-Strike scene. And you're supposed to take care of them in return. And that just seemed like such a blatant violation of that kind of agreement that is underlying of that kind of a contract between the organization and the player. And it's not just that you didn't take care of him, it's that you actively kind of, in my mind, sabotaged him in a way, which is even crazier.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's just a trash org in that sense, like just the way they handle some of these things, right? Because you might be thinking, wait, is this guy like, is he some sort of a, bad teammate or something? Is he having like mental health issues?
Right.
Like what could be the medical emergency, right? That he can't play the tournament, that it's like that bad? Is he like just, once he gets replaced, he doesn't want to play at all? Like he's that butthurt, which would obviously, make you think some personality issues or whatever. Like, is he a good teammate? So yeah, a lot of fuckery going on there. But even without that, just sort of using that excuse to get cadian to play in there, and then also Blast like not doing due diligence, because it's for them it's like convenient. Like there's no mistake about it. You get, this hype about this team. You're hoping they can win one game to get the arena so you can sell some more tickets, right? And fill the arena, hopefully. And all that shit. And It's like, come on, man. You had Dexter not being able to play for Heroic. You forced them to play with a coach. Monesi at Spring Finals, you were forcing them to play with a coach as well.
Yeah.
It's like, where is the consistency, right, across these cases? And the answer was like, oh yeah, you have subs registered like that you could use, so we don't, you don't fall under the rule where we need to grant you an emergency sub, which is like, some of those rules are set up in a shit way where actually you're better off not registering like your coach as a sub or any sub, just having the 5 players register, because then if someone actually can't make it, they have no choice than to grant you the emergency sub because you have only 4 players listed. So I wonder if Astralis even had Raga listed, or not, because if they did, then he had to play. If they did and they still granted them cadian, that's fucking bullshit, bro. Like, if Raga was like listed as a sub and they didn't just tell them, no, you have to use Raga, but they allowed them to bring in cadian, then that's just fucking bullshit, bro. That's like actually hurting the competitive integrity of the tournament, because all this shit matters, right? Like the Val ranking points, the RMR is around the corner. Yep. We're going to get seeds for that fairly soon. Obviously, making the World Finals, which is another tournament that's going to be, included into the points, right, into the Val rankings for next year. So, just a lot of shit that, kind of just seems shady from the outside, and shows you sort of when a player association doesn't exist or is defunct. I'm really glad that the players still sort of, the in-game leaders, got together and did something, because something had to be done. But it was like kind of ridiculous that this was sort of allowed to go through.
I mean, dude, honestly, like I started out when this was unfolding, as I mentioned, I was pissed at just like the Astralis side of things when it was announced. And I think the only thing that kind of calmed me down was like how everything after that just turned into a fucking clown show. Like it's such a ludicrous sequence of events that I couldn't even be upset. All I could do was laugh, because it's just so like
it's so obvious.
Well, like it even came out. Astralis told Blast Bro is quote unquote unfit to play, which is why that became such a meme in a tweet from all the IGLs as they kind of skipped media day. And I mean, for good reason. Like if that's what they've given to Blast Bro is unfit to play, and Blast goes, oh, okay, medical emergency. Like that is the most generous interpretation of that statement like ever. Like, and it's insane and then the next day is like, we've been given no reason to question Astralis' original statement. And then that's also when Bro's agent had already tweeted, yep, he's in perfect health, he's fine. And then it came out that he was playing Face It for like 10 games of Face It that day. Like he was at home just grinding Counter-Strike. And then I think it was Richard who broke that he was even at that moment trialing for ENTs. Like he was standing in practice games for ENTs. So it's like you have that sequence of events. And then finally there's further clarification. I don't know. And then, I mean, at the end, even kind of requesting ESIC come in, which
No, the funny part was like when they said we got like whatever, there was nothing for us to question like the statement from Astralis or whatever, when literally his agent like tweeted about it. So it's like, whatever, it's just kind of fun. And then after they were already played and all of this stuff, they want ESIC to look into it. It's like, great, now we know you're serious, because ESIC's going to do something for sure. And then I just don't know how on top of all of this, they fucking get Raga out there to be on the desk yesterday.
I know.
It's like, really, you're now rubbing it into people's faces as well? Just like fucking leave them out of it. It's like, is this how much you can't help yourself? And also, fuck Astralis for that, just the tone, like the hubris from this org, with that email where it's like, we shouldn't have to tell a Danish company that we cannot disclose like the information of our employees. Is like, that's really the tone you're taking with this thing.
Also, like the fuck off that you can't provide anything further than he is unfit to play. Like I understand there's, government regulations. You can't be giving out information about employees, but something more specific than unfit to play, like surely wouldn't have violated anything, like I don't get it.
You know what the problem is as well? Like actually they've done this team more harm than good as well. because already they put the negative fucking stink on
Oh
them.
yeah, absolutely.
Right, like already they had to weasel. It was already going to be a lot of press on this team because of whole Stone and Yabi and Cadian thing and everything, right? And now you've created even more negative, like brought more negative attention to them with this whole bullshit about the emergency sub and how Cadian wasn't even supposed to play. And you only had like what 5 days a week, or I don't know how long to practice anyway. So it was going to be a tough time. Like, was it worth it regardless? You know, like when you look back on it, and it's not how you want to kick off like a new roster, and especially one that had to make such a massive change.
I mean, Cadian even said it in the interview when they got eliminated, was like, yeah, all this extra stuff swirling around, you know, me kind of playing at this event made things even harder. And it's just like the EG situation. It's like, why has management done this in a way that has, you know, that just puts more pressure and more scrutiny on the players who are going to take the brunt of the insults on the internet because they are the faces of the organization that everyone sees. You know, like people don't go to the Astralis Twitter account and you know, well, they probably do, but more so it'll be the players who have to like get those tweets in response to anything they do during the event, you know? And that's the other side of it too, where I'm just like, it just feels so short-sighted to have allowed this to happen, from Astralis pushing for it and the Blast letting it go through. I think about, yeah, they had 5 days to play. Why are you rushing to get these guys on a stage? I know it's a home event. I know it's in Copenhagen and you really want to be in the playoffs and you really want to play in front of the crowd. But that's a lot of pressure against the best teams in the world to put this brand new lineup together that really probably only had enough time to like kind of talk about how they wanted to shift around in different spots, maybe scrim every map once or twice, but not enough to build any kind of depth to play the best teams in the world. So all of a sudden you're thrusting them into like pretty much it feels a lose-lose situation, and they go out and get blown out 13-0 in their very first game together to everyone's enjoyment and everyone making jokes and memes about it. And then from the Blast side of things, I think Rain, in his interview, kicked him in the fucking dick. Like when Rain comes out and said, like, I mean, this is crazy. Blast has made like a really weird decision considering next year teams are going to have to pick and choose which events they want to play. And it's clear that, you know, in his mind, they didn't get equal treatment. So that's gonna be something that might come back to bite them next year. And I mean, and I think maybe that's part of why Blast brought in ESIC. They wanted to show that they can, they'll pass off the responsibility to ESIC.
Yeah, but that's just
yeah. I know. But that's kind of the move, right? Is like let ESIC come in and do the determination, and if they have to criticize us or crack down on us, fine. At least publicly, we showed that we've moved past the issue and blah blah blah. But it's too little, too late.
That's like saying, don't worry about it. You know, my cousin's going to come and look after the kid. And the cousin is like, you know, partying every night, getting wasted, you know, like at uni. You know, I'm trying to do a non-ex-girlfriend analogy here, Jason.
It's going pretty good. I like it.
I'm you know, so it's like, oh yeah, that's going to help. Like that guy's going to do a great job. Thanks so much for inviting them to help. But
it's a weird one. Yeah, that whole situation was fucked. What do you think about the Simple news being loaned to Falcons? It's officially official. Sun Pius out and Simple stepping in for the major.
Yeah, I don't know. That's like so strange in a sense. I guess they just needed some change because things obviously weren't working out for them, right? Like it's just... some of the results are pretty embarrassing, like the one in at Pro League, I think, losing to Red Canids, right? It's like, come on, guys, what's too much is too much. And with this one, at least they make a big shift, like it's a big news in the scene as well. You get Simple, who obviously, I don't know how many times, #1 player in the world. Let's see, a lot. 2, 3 times #1 player in the world, #2 a couple of times as well in there. He's only still 26 years old.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
you know, this was surprising and I didn't expect it whatsoever. And then kind of the more I thought about it, the more it actually made a little bit more sense. Like, I mean, if you're Falcons, you're rock bottom. You know, like I guess this is the time to make that swing. It's not like everything's going well and you think this might be the upgrade that takes you over the line, but also you know there's a risk that it could unravel everything. This is them at rock bottom, and it's kind of, in my mind, a Hail Mary. Because I'm still not convinced that we're going to get Simple that's nearly as good and impactful as he was in his career.
Yeah, I agree with that as well. I mean, it couldn't be worse than what they were doing, right? Like how it was going for Falcons. It was going really nowhere. So like, yeah, was Sub Pius the worst player on that team? No.
I think he was statistically the best for the last.
But getting Simple in to give them a jolt, I guess, like, and just having that guy who's going to be hyper aggressive and always trying to make plays, obviously the wealth of his experience. But yeah, it's been, with Simple, it's just been clear that some of his focus has shifted, I guess, which then led to his form to drop off slightly, which then led for his confidence to drop off slightly. And it was just like a vicious cycle, really. Then they went international, obviously a completely different dynamic and all of the things that happened there. So it's like it felt like he lost himself to some extent. And we were on this podcast, I don't know, a while ago, and I was saying, it would be good for him to take a break and try to like get into a good place mentally, if that's possible, sort of find his love or hunger for the game again. So you're hoping that that's what's happened in this year. Really, he took a year off.
Yeah,
pretty much, like played that one series for Falcons in CS2, and that was pretty much it. So you're hoping that happened. Like I don't have the impression that that's what happened and that that's where he's at. But I hope that I'm wrong, because Simple on form and being a part of our scene is definitely makes it for a more exciting scene.
Yeah, and I guess maybe what's kind of interesting about this move to me as well is like there is kind of a grace period where this is alone, I'm assuming, till the end of the year, until after the major maybe, and Falcons kind of get to see what sort of a Simple they're going to get, and then you kind of are set up where if everything's going well and improving, you're hitting your stride, and then Nico joins the roster, and then all of a sudden you're sitting there with Nico, Simple, and then depending on who they want to keep at that point, right? Because we still don't know who's going to be leaving for Nico, if that's all true. Again, it's kind of up in the air. It feels publicly like it's pretty locked in, but if you're thinking Nico's going to come at the end of the year, you bolster with Simple. That could be kind of a cool way to start 2025.
I don't know if that's a good good idea to put those two together on the same team, right? Like maybe a little bit too much.
But like, what would be the thought process then? Like, I guess you're just bolstering it and be like, okay, maybe we can get Simple to hard carry us to a decent run at the major, and then he's going to leave right when we get used to playing with him.
Well, I think potentially, right? I think if you're Falcons, you really want to get Monesi and Nico and Monesi.
Yeah.
Right? Like that's what you want. Now, whether that's even possible, I don't know. But let's say that it is, right? Like you get Simple for now, then you get these other guys and he's done. But let's say it's not, or you can't get him after the major. Maybe you could down the line, I don't know. Then maybe you're like, okay, let's get Simple on a loan. We'll need an offer post-major. And if maybe it turns out that, he still has it and he fucking performs great and everything works great, which I doubt, then we keep him, maybe long-term, maybe not, I don't know. But I think more than anything, in Falcons, you probably have some people who are like, oh, we can get Simple, it's such a huge name, and not really looking too deep at, what kind of a player you need or how good is he going to be right now. But I think I have a very difficult time seeing him stay into the next year.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess it'll be interesting to see how that tracks.
I'm looking forward to it, man. Obviously, I don't know what their next tournament is for Falcons. They're not in Rio. They did not.
It'd be the RMR, I guess,
the
wouldn't
World Finals, I don't imagine. Yeah, they're not at the World Finals, so yeah, I think it has to be the RMR unless they're doing play something online.
Yeah, they're doing some of those smaller ones. I think upcoming says they're going to be a Thunder pick. World Championship, which has looks like Falcons, Heroic, and M80. Falcons, Heroic, M80, Big, Imperial, Fnatic, Cloud9, Legacy, Bestia, Bleed. Probably 4 or 5 more teams.
Okay, I see it now. Yep.
Yeah. And then Challenger, Katowice, and then the RMR for Shanghai. So yeah, I guess we'll get a good glimpse. It'll be fun to watch how much Simple can improve and catch up with the flow of things heading into the major. He's got a decent amount of time if he grinds the way he used to, that we know he used to.
Yeah, definitely looking forward to watching him back on the server.
What else? What else happened recently?
I mean, we didn't really do a post-Pro League sort of episode.
Yeah, is there anything from Pro League?
We don't need to. Well, I mean, we can sort of wrap. We can
maybe the finals
combine Rio and Pro League together, right? Because what I was going to say, and I saw other team that said that, in Katowice Challenger is Eternal Fire.
Yeah,
who obviously was in the final of Pro League and is going to be in Rio. Their first game is going to be against Astralis. And, man, I felt so heartbroken for them. Like, they really had a great opportunity to win that final. It felt like they could have easily won 3-0, right? Like, they had chances.
They probably should have.
Anubis. Yeah, definitely. And it's just the lack of experience, really, in the end, in some of those moments. Things unraveled for them, and NaVi just pulled through in some of those key rounds and made some key plays, really. But throughout the tournament, Eternal Fire played really strong Counter-Strike as a team, and probably more importantly, their star players stepped up kind of all at the same time, right? Like Woxic had a great tournament, Xantares, and then Vicadia also towards the tail end of the playoffs also stepped up. So now it's going to be okay. That was really cool. But can you do it again?
Yeah, that's always the question. I hope they can. They're actually a really fun team to watch. Like when Xantares and Woxic are popping off, like you just mentioned, they were during EPL. It's a really exciting team, and they play a cool, energetic style of Counter-Strike as well. I hope they can continue it. Going to be hard, I think, but it also interesting because I think like that thing that I brought up earlier about Eternal Fire kind of changing their game plan, I think that's a really cool thing for a team and players to have the ability to do, is feel like you're getting countered and come up with solutions and new ideas that give you like kind of a fresh take on things. And that's really an impressive skill set for a team. I don't know. I like everything about their team. You talk about players stepping up. Even Calix, like throughout Pro League, like not ever going to put up the big numbers, but just his individual level improved to the point where he was able to provide a lot more impact as well. So I mean, that's kind of a sneakily a pretty deep team when you start getting Woxic on Xantares and Wakadia firing off the way they did. Major and Calix can both bring it in situations where they're called upon.
Yeah, and I think I ran into their manager as well, I think before the final or before the semifinal, and he was saying, yeah, we've been working a lot. The players have all been working on their game, watching demos. We've been working on our utility, to tighten that up, and all of that showed in the games. And I trust Major to be able to build a good game plan, right? And the players have been executing that on a high level. So we'll see if maybe teams will figure out how to play against them a little bit better and what will happen. But also Xantares with some of his bullshit, it's just so fun to watch. So you're hoping for a little bit more of that in Rio. I hope they bring it. That would be like a really cool facet to have to Counter-Strike to round out the year. Because I mean, you have NaVi, Vitality, G2, Spirit, and Mouse, I think all is, well, maybe not so much Spirit at this point. We have yet to see if Mouse can kind of recover. But, like those teams are all kind of put in that category of have the ability to win this event. And if you start adding Eternal Fire into that, and then you consider FaZe and Liquid probably just on the outside knocking on that group door, the fact that we have like 5 to 7 teams who it feels like could all pop off and win an event is wild. Like that's probably the best it's ever been in Counter-Strike in terms of the number of teams that are realistically competing for trophies. Yeah, it's very exciting, and I think also as a little bit of a preview for Rio, just opening the event page, and NaVi has Rare Atom in their first game, then the winner of Liquid Complexity in the second, and these are best of ones in the opening round. So Liquid Complexity best of one winner most likely plays NaVi, loser into the lower bracket, FaZe versus Furia, Mouse versus Pain. Like, this is where you expect Mouse to,
Yep.
make the playoffs, make a dent. That's like NaVi, Liquid, Complexity, FaZe, Furia, Mouse, and Pain all in the same group. I mean, with the best of one opening games, who knows what can happen?
Also, we're talking about Mouse potentially recovering. I've said this a number of times. I think Pain as like your opening best of one game is like is such a trap. Like, that Pain team can be really, really strong and surprising. So Mouse better come in prepared. I think the bottom half of that bracket, I guess Group B bracket is actually kind of cool. Eternal Fire Astralis, you expect Eternal Fire to win that. G2 Heroic, you expect G2 to win that, which would set up Astralis Heroic for an elimination game in the lower bracket of round one, which would be so spicy if it gets there.
Yeah, I think it will be tough for Eternal Fire in that game because there's not going to be a lot of info for Major to go off of, and it's a best of one MR12, right? Depending on which map they end up on, how you're going to approach it, right? All of that stuff. I think they're not going to love the fact that they're playing them in a best of one and in their opening game, but we'll see. And then, the upper side of that bracket, bro, Vitality 9Z and then VP and the Mongols. I don't know what's going on with VP.
Yeah, that feels like a dead team.
You're rooting for the Mongols in this one. I think everyone is.
Absolutely. I find myself rooting for Mongols quite frequently, even in matches where I know they can't win. I just like watching them play well. Like, when Mongols gets on a heater, they're another team that's just like so fun to watch. Yeah, I don't know what's going on with VP. It doesn't help that we literally cannot ever speak to any of them about anything of any consequence or importance in any situation, whether it's live or pre-recorded. Like, we don't even have access to the players we want to talk to. But they feel everything I've seen. Like, dude, I guess that's one other headline that came out that we kind of missed or haven't spoken about yet. But like, you have VP changing from Destan, bringing Electronic in. You have them bring in a new coach. That new coach is gone very, very quickly. We saw the level of disrespect and like lack of fucking anything they had for him. And then the org denies us access to players, so you feel like there's more shit going on that they don't want us to find out. And then Electronic gets in a fight. like, okay, this is going really well, I guess. I don't even know what to say.
This is taking a turn all of a sudden.
And I don't know any details about the fight. I don't even know if it actually happened. Has it been confirmed? All I saw was Overdrive posting about it. I guess they also posted like 12 hours later it's being overblown. They were sat down like having a cup of fucking tea together or something. So I don't know. I have no clue what's going on in VP, but it feels like it's a train wreck. From the outside, it feels like a train wreck.
Yeah. It's hard to really judge without knowing anything and getting at least some information about what's going on with the team. But on paper, they should be doing much better. Same like the Cloud9 team, right? Those are both of the teams where Electronic was on. So is that the reason? Is something else the reason? Their coach was there for a couple of months. They didn't even want to high-five him. Was he the reason why they were sucking for a while there? Like, all this stuff is, just really... Even just watching them in matches at Pro League, I watched them back-to-back days. I think it was against... Well, they lost to Heroic. They were eliminated in playoffs round one. I think it was Furia then that they played before that. Yeah, I watched them on back-to-back days on Dust 2, unable to hit like the door smoke. Like, missed it like 3 or 4 times against Furia. Yeah, and I was just like, how? Like, surely you guys saw that you were missing this smoke and not only missing it, but being punished by it, like still trying to get up catwalk and getting picked off. And like, I don't know, it seems like that team has just completely unraveled and lost the plot. I think what's scary about it for me is like, it's now the second time where Electronic has made a move to a team from NaVi to Cloud9 to create that fucking super team that everyone felt like was going to be absolutely crazy. That internally exploded, blew up, and, project got deleted. And then he joins VP, which on paper, it's like, oh shit, like Electronic in this team,
like bringing in a fresh perspective, a new style, a new philosophy of Counter-Strike, really strong individually. Look at this core of riflers, electronic, flit, fame. This is going to be wild. And once again, the project seems to be unraveling. And I guess I'm not actually pinning it on electronic rather than just pointing in that direction to now my attention is just kind of like, why can't electronic find a way to fit into a new team? Why is the last 2 teams he's joined with really good players all performed worse and to such a massive degree that it just blows up?
Yeah, those are all great questions, Jason, but I don't think we'll be getting the answers.
No, of course we can't. We can't talk to anyone. Fuck.
Anytime soon, but we'll see. You know, it was in Rio where they did some of their best work 2 years ago, so maybe that's the catalyst. James already won 2 tournaments there, so maybe 3rd time as well.
Yeah, it's the charm.
Who knows?
Oh man.
All right. That feels like a
good way to wrap things up on a fist fight.
We probably missed something.
Probably
that happened.
But you know what, Yanko?
Lucaozi did come to MIBR. He replaced Breno, so they should be even more sick. There you go.
There we go.
And they were just a dead team. That's why they did so well at Pro League.
Yeah.
Just like G2 did now at Fall Finals. Peace.